Hi everyone, welcome to C Talks. I'm your host Sandeep Alur. My very first episode, my very first guest, Irina Ghose, Managing Director, Microsoft India and South Asia, and former COO. Irina, welcome to C Talks.
Pleasure to be here completely, Sandeep, and thank you so much for hosting me.
Wonderful. My first episode, I can't be happy, Irina. So, jumping right into the first question, 22 plus years at Microsoft India, and you also have a foundation by name MyLittleBit, right? In my personal opinion, you epitomize entrepreneurship spirit at work, which is business, and of course, philanthropy. What made you start MyLittleBit? And by the way, how do you balance between these two roles?
Lovely question, and thank you so much for asking that to me, Sandeep. Both very close to my heart.
Yeah.
When I look back at my 22 years out here, and when I think that what is it that has given me the maximum amount of learning,
Yeah.
it's when I've taken the largest amount of risks or gone for something that I didn't know. I also think that there's a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit lying within each of us.
Right.
At the core of it, what does entrepreneurship spirit mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's the culture of innovation, taking risks, and being resourceful, but resourceful, being frugal, and making things happen by what you have, right? Now translate that to the corporate world. We are doing things as leaders, all of us, you, I, our team members, making changes, driving things. When we are doing that, we do with a sense of accountability and wearing that entrepreneurial spirit as an owner's mindset.
Right.
End-to-end accountability.
Right.
The spirit is not any different.
Wow.
So if you want to make a change, you will do that in your day-to-day work as well, right? Now, why did I start MyLittleBit? At that point of time in Microsoft, I was leading the education vertical.
Right.
I come from a family of educators, and education for our parents, my parents, the entire generation has been a game changer and has been the currency which has made the difference.
Right.
And I had that thing of giving back. So I kind of just decided what I knew best was to use technology to teach underprivileged girls realize their potential and dreams, get into this space.
Wow.
That's exactly what I started, and from then on till now, I started in 2010, changed various colors, forms, shapes, different kinds of impact. And I just think that when people ask me that how do you balance things,
Yeah.
all of us want to do that. Everybody says that maybe 5 years later, 10 years later, when I retire, I would just say, if you want to do something, bite small, bite large, but bite something and do it now.
Wow, very profound. 14 years, by the way, for
Yeah.
MyLittleBit. Wonderful. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now, in your view, does this work at MyLittleBit, has it enriched your leadership style at Microsoft, or is it other way around?
Yeah, so Sandeep, I just feel that any mission that you embark on
Right.
has three parts: the purpose, the goal,
Yeah.
and the journey. The why, the what, and the how. And I'll give you a small example. One of the initiatives that we do in MyLittleBit is doing special classes for girls in government schools in small cohorts for maths and science.
Okay.
Now, in that entire journey of making changes to the lives of girls, we realized that there's a school, Renuka School, near Kasavanahalli in Bangalore.
Right.
They were, in the entire history, the girls were not getting distinctions, and they were falling back because they were scoring very well in language, in Kannada and English.
Right.
Maths and science, they were really not good.
Wow.
And like you know, in government schools, nobody fails.
Yeah,
The
that's
fundamentals were very weak. So we started doing these small cohorts to ensure that the girls get their fundamentals right, but with a test prep outcome-led mode. We started this for 7 years. For the last 2 years, all the 3 toppers of the school are all girls. The last year, we had 6 out of 12 in our cohort having distinctions, and the
Wow.
highest score there was 93.4%.
Wow.
So what did we do? We said that let's dream audacious. We will have all our cohort of girls, 12 or 15, get distinctions. We are midway through. We went to the smallest problem, which could give us not just a linear but an exponential growth.
Okay.
Crack the smallest problem, maths and science was the problem. We looked at milestones, look at doing exam prep assessment and seeing where they go,
Right.
and tweak. I think that's the learning when we are thinking of taking shares, shaping the market, big bold initiatives.
Yeah.
You have to look at those smallest things which could give us those flywheels towards exponential growth. Look at milestone, check
Wow.
that out and make that happen.
Wow. I mean, what an alignment, Irina, from the humanitarian work that you do to the corporate, I would say, activities. Beautiful alignment there. So, moving on, I think you were a COO some time back. I know it's a demanding role, a high-profile role, but what has been your biggest challenges and an instance you can quote or you can generalize it, and how did you overcome that? I would love to hear that.
Sure. So, in a role as a COO, there are a few things that you have to do.
Right.
What I always tell myself, the team, and everybody is that you are actually the heartbeat and you need to have your eye on the compass. You have to do the now
Right.
and the future. So, prioritize the now and look at the new, right? You have to run the business and shape the business.
Got it.
Now, if you ask me that, what kind of a time split do you do? If I say, Sandeep, I do an 80-20, if I do 80-20, by the time the person, the last mile will be doing it, it'll be 99-1, right?
Wow, yeah,
So if
absolutely.
I really don't make it happen as a 50-50 every day in my mind share, time share, in everything that I do, it ain't gonna happen, right?
Wow.
Now, when you look at that, there are constraints and there are opportunities. So let's look at it. The first thing is resources. When
Right.
you want to do all things which are horizon 1 as well as in horizon 2 and horizon 3, you are limited by your resources. You're talking about entrepreneurship. So think about yourself as a bootstrapped entrepreneur. What will you do? Things which are not yielding you results,
Right.
redirect the resources to something which is like you're a self-funded CEO at all
Right,
points of
right.
time, right?
Wow.
So that's the first one. The second one is you are always thinking about scaling. Day in and day out, you want to prove something and scale. Now, when you're thinking of scale, you have to think about this flywheel model.
Right.
What is your input? What is the playbook? What are the milestones? What is the output? What are your flying formations? And seeing that at which pivotal point have you reached the space wherein you can put that escape velocity, and then it's in a self-autonomous mode.
Got it.
That's the second part. And the third part I would just say is the growth. Now, you always have to look at what are the smallest input parameters which can give you differential growth, sense the market,
Right.
have a view of the entire audience, and keep on bringing the signals back to whatever you want to make the impact.
Wow, absolutely. Love the analogy in 50-50, Irina. Love it. Awesome. So moving on, this is a question of strategy, right? So now culture plays such a critical role as you manage your operations at the subsidiary level. What's been your approach to inculcate that culture where productivity and of course teamwork become central to overall operations? So what's been your strategy when you actually were a COO?
Now, to that question, setting up culture, I think the first part is how do I show up?
Right.
Do I bring in that level of authenticity and trust? Am I the leader who I am and not the leader who I pretend to be? And the second part is how does my team show up? Is it a team of all-star or an all-stars team?
Wow.
Remember the movie Chakte?
Oh,
They
yes.
won it
Yeah.
because it was not individual excellence, it was the collective
Collective.
team spirit.
Yeah.
And when you think about what makes this team jive, move together, to that spirit of innovation, having an entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
Are they thinking new? Do they think they have the safety net? And one of those mottos that I always think is that in life, when you're experimenting, you sometimes win, but you never lose, you always learn.
Right.
Right. The second thing I always think is that in this journey, you should have a sense of collaborative leadership.
Right.
And people will remember you for an outcome, but your legacy is not just the outcome, but how you delivered it.
Right.
That's very, very critical and important. And the third part that I truly think that what trumps all levels of leadership is how do you show up with that level of positive energy and generate that energy to the entire chain around you?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if the intent is to make it happen, it will happen.
Wonderful. I think I love it. In fact, I've seen you demonstrate that day in and day out, Irina. Thank you so much for this perspective. Loved it. Moving on, you were a COO, and in your perspective, if one has to look at becoming a COO or a successful COO, what are some of the traits that you think they should possess? Considering the fact that it's a fast-moving business environment. Landscape is shifting every quarter, I would say. So, your top traits that you would see in a COO?
Right. I would simplify and distill it to a few.
Sure.
The first one, I would say, is adaptability and agility.
Right.
You really have to distill the signals from the noise. And that means that you have a pulse of what is happening outside,
Right.
but also discern it to say that what really, really matters, right? The second one is having a big picture view. Because you can always get drowned by the distraction, the
Right.
immediate and the urgent, and tying back to that 50-50. How are you really thinking ahead?
Yeah.
Or what are those moves which will keep you ahead of the game? The third one, I would say, which is very critical, is towards having a strategically differentiated vision. I
Okay.
use the word differentiated.
Right.
You won't get it right the first time. Iterate and see what is it that is a win-win for you and your stakeholders, and what will get you ahead of the curve. And the second part is a rigorous, relentless execution.
Right.
It could get very boring, and
Yeah.
in Microsoft we call it embrace the grind.
Right.
And that's the reality. But I mean, you need to ensure that the vision to the execution is happening in a clockwork speed.
Wonderful.
Those three, if you get it right, I'm sure that you will be able to make a difference happen.
Wonderful. Irina, strategically differentiated vision. I think that's so unique to every single individual what they bring to the table, and that differentiates a CEO from the rest of the crowd, I guess. Awesome. One last question, Irina. I ask this to all leaders, even offline for that matter. I'm asking you this today. So, what's your superpower?
If I were to identify one superpower, Sandeep, I think it would be my ability to connect the dots.
Wonderful.
Whether it's in business, technology, philanthropy, connections, seeing the diverse patterns and getting learnings from one and applying it to the other to bring in innovative solutions is something that I've learned as a journey on the way.
Wonderful.
And believe me, this gives you an ability to solve critical challenges, think innovatively, ability to have a distilled decision making.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's just your muscle power which is kind of getting honed. So I would say that whether it's ideas or connections
Right.
of people, this ability towards connecting dots to make the magic happen is something that I'm learning, but I feel that could be a different.
Wow. Irina, thank you so much for coming to see Talks. Wonderful chatting up.
Thank you, Sandeep, and good luck for everything ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.